contenido. Este creador de contenido fue uno de los primeros que yo vi de lore. En inglés se llama Novel. Es muy bueno, la verdad, muy bueno, muy minucioso con la información que da. Y tuvo la oportunidad de entrevistar a los desarrolladores hablando del tema de WoW, hablando del tema de cómo hicieron, cuál es la diferencia entre MIST of Pandaria y todo lo que hemos tenido anteriormente de las versiones de Classic. Y pues vamos a aprovechar para verlo ahorita que los servidores están caídos.
Hello everyone. Mr. Pandaria Classic is launching on July 21st, and I got to sit down with Clayton Stone and Ada Moon to let you all know that this is happening, but also talk a bit about their design philosophy. As with Mr. Pandaria, the whole hashtag no changes is not a thing. In fact, quite a few changes.
Entiendo la gente que quería no changes, ya tuvieron el 2019, por el amor de Cristo Rey, que se acabe ya esa filosofía. Yo no quiero volver a escuchar jamás no changes en esta versión de Classic al futuro. De verdad, eso es lo único que no quiero volver a escuchar a nadie jamás decir.
Have been made to make it a broader, better experience, like make it reputation grinds a lot better, and the removal of LFR, flowing into being able to stay up to date with gear and legendary quests through dungeons. Now, I don't want to give the entire conversation away, but for me, like, Mr. Pandaria is one of the best expansions that they've ever done. The world building was insane, I love the story progression, and most of all, the additional things to do besides the standard endgame of PvP and raiding. There were scenarios, pet battles, challenge modes, Brawlers Guild, and so much more.
Qué curada que los escenarios y las gestas realmente fue algo que no duró. O sea, puede ser como que un tema de que están muy interesantes, están muy suaves, pero realmente los escenarios, las gestas no duraron nada. ¿Saben cuánto demorarán los servers? Si parcharán algo, no tengo ni idea, no sabemos.
Perhaps you've never experienced Pandaria back in the day, and even though we just had Remix, the classic experience, there's nothing quite like it, right?
Es que por eso yo no quiero volver a escuchar nada de No Changes, porque yo creo que Warlords of Draenor nos puede traer una buena experiencia, de verdad. A la gente que odia a Warlords of Draenor, yo les invito a no juzgar a Warlords of Draenor hasta volverlo a jugar. Y creo que nos puede traer una muy buena experiencia si le damos la oportunidad, de verdad.
Say that this is just simply not your jam. Do know that right now you can earn yourself a mount by playing through the Pandaren starting experience. I'll link some details on that in the description down below. A big thank you to Blizzard for letting me do this interview. And of course, Aiden and Clayton for taking the time. With that, sit back, relax, and I hope you'll enjoy.
Salió Blue Poster,
and today we get to talk about Mr. Pandaria Classic, the developments, behind the scenes, what's going on, and of course let you all know that it's gonna happen.
Mi único problema con que haya creadores como Novel, muchas gracias, como Novel que están haciendo estas entrevistas, es que Novel, igual que Krix, igual que varios creadores en inglés, no han estado jugando últimamente. Y ese es un problema, porque creo que no tienen toda la película de Classic, como que de esta versión de Classic, de cómo ha cambiado, cuáles han sido los aciertos, cuáles han sido los desaciertos. Me hubiera gustado que hubiera habido una entrevista con un creador de contenido como Jordi, con un creador de contenido, si iba a ser alguien en inglés, que mínimo fuera una persona que hubiera jugado Cataclismo para que pueda estar un poquito como más centrado, que hubieran jugado estas versiones de Classic, pero pues les tocó a Novel y la verdad, él sí admito que me parece un muy buen creador de contenido también, entonces vamos a ver.
We are joined today by two of Blizzard's finest. Please, by all means, who are you, what do people know you from, and what do you do?
So, my name's Aiden. A lot of people might know me as Zyrene. I'm a game designer on the World of Warcraft Classic team, focusing on systems and classes mostly.
Zyrene era caster de LoL.
And hi, I'm Clay Stone, Associate Production Director on WoW Classic. I support the team from a production standpoint and get to help chart our roadmap into the future. Excited to be here and talk about Mob Classic with you.
So you're guiding the path on the development. And I remember from originally with Mr. Pandaria Classic, I was there during the original announcement where people were like, ooh, they're now Pandaren in my game. Some people immediately like, nah, thank you. And then it turned out to be a fantastic expansion.
Sí,
One of the best in my opinion.
Yo fui de esas personas que dijo, no. ¿Cómo me estás dando pandas en WoW? Yo quiero sangre, ataque. Si me estás trayendo pandas, yo dejé de jugar Pandaria por eso precisamente.
How's the reception been so far to the re-release of Mr. Pandaria?
The response has honestly been really overwhelming. Being on the development side of it, this release, because it obviously wasn't here during the first release of Pandaria, it's a completely different view of seeing how everything went down from the inside. And I absolutely love the response from the community, because a lot of people like you said, they initially were like a little standoffish, like, oh, there's pandas in my game now. But honestly, the game turned out to have exciting class design, really memorable PvP, instances and raids that people still to this day adore. So,
sí, yo me arrepiento muchísimo de no haberle dado la oportunidad en su momento a Pandaria, la verdad.
Honestly, it's been...
Por eso, en esta ocasión dije, lo voy a jugar 100%.
Really great that it feels like almost people are like, they've accepted that there's pandas in the game, and now they're like, yeah, let's get to the cool part, though. So I'm really excited about that.
Claro.
Not to mention the storyline as well. Like, that for me personally was one of the big things that blew up, because pandas were like a little Easter egg from Warcraft 3, and then all of a sudden, here's a whole new land to explore.
Yeah, I would just add too that, that excitement that we've been seeing, like we feel it as a development team, and it's awesome, and it results in some one.
Sí, pero salen en una misión nada más, Nostrand. O sea, como dijo Noble ahorita, el Pandaria de Warcraft 3 es realmente algo, es como, en inglés se llama Easter egg, es como un detallito nada más. No hay nada que esté centrado en los Pandaren en Warcraft 3. Entonces, realmente, cuando fue el tema de Pandaria, mucha gente pensaba que era un tema hasta de Día de los Inocentes, porque realmente nunca habían tenido un peso ni en la retórica, ni en la parte de la historia, ni en la parte de absolutamente nada. Entonces, cuando anuncian Pandaria, en aquel momento, que ya ni me acuerdo en qué año fue, realmente mucha gente dijo, ¿qué es esto? Así como se quejan ahorita los jugadores de retail, de la historia de retail, en su momento también créeme que esto fue algo que hizo un choque muy fuerte con la comunidad de aquel momento.
Wonderful conversations that we've had and a lot of feedback on that original version. One of the wonderful things about each of these classic expansions that we get to
no me acuerdo exactamente cuál Pandaren fue.
To redevelop and recreate is that players already have strong opinions about the original and parts that they liked and parts that they didn't like. And it allowed us really for MIST of Pandaria Classic to look at it holistically and I believe make some really well-considered changes that in this lead up to launch, as we continue to, announce them and continue that discussion with the community, has further fueled that excitement. We're really, viewing it from the perspective of, hey, if we're going to bring MIST of Pandaria back, let's bring the absolute best version of MIST of Pandaria back to our players. And I think that we're on a great path to be able to do that.
So I take it then that the mindset of Classic was very much like no changes.
Cambiaron muchas de las cosas que se veían desde antes que iban a ser un problema. No sabemos por qué se cayeron los servers, no sabemos cuánto tiempo van a estar caídos, por eso mientras estamos viendo este video.
Want it as is. But now there's a conversation and dialogue with the player base, and I've seen already online that people are over the moon with how you're all treating PvP, for example. But can we expect other elements to be changed as well going forward?
Oh, we do have a lot of like PvE changes for classes. Essentially, what Classic, like you said, originally was a lot of no changes, just kind of give the players the game. And what we've learned over time is that players have changed in a good way. They've modernized, they've figured out the parts that they don't like. And
y no nada más se modernizaron, están más viejos. Eso tiene que ser la parte torácica de todo el debate de no changes, de hacer las cosas más más de grind, etc. Simplemente estamos más viejos en general, la player base de WoW.
And then when they communicate with us, because we have such great pathways to do that now, we can listen to that feedback and be like, okay, let's figure out why reputations were so bad or why people didn't really like them back in the day. Why was it so alt-unfriendly? Like, we kind of focus on the points that players come to us with and say, hey, this wasn't really that great. Or also, sometimes we like to deal in Mandela effect here, where people are like, oh, this was a really good season. And you're like, you look at it and you're like, wait a second, there's a lot of things here that really don't add up for like season 12.
Y realmente lo que pudieron haber hecho honestamente es hacer las reputaciones de toda la account, de toda la cuenta. Creo que eso es lo que, en mi opinión, debieron de haber hecho para que realmente Pandaria fuera súper amigable desde la apertura. Creo que eso hubiera sido la mejor de las decisiones. Pero se aprecia que mínimo haya mayor cantidad de reputación cuando llegas a Venerado, ¿no? Yo hubiera preferido reputaciones por toda la cuenta, pero bueno.
In PvP, where it was kind of right before season 13 and 14 came out, where they had all these other PvP changes. So yeah, we're really focused on kind of dealing in what the players think the game should be like, because to some degree, this is our game, but it's really the players' game. We're really making Classic for the players here. We're trying to make the game that they love and capture that.
Esa filosofía la tienes que tener para cualquier juego, no nomás para WoW. De entender que no tiene que reflejar tus posturas políticas, no tiene que reflejar como que... Porque ese es un problema un problema muy grande que tiene el gaming moderno. Muchas personas intentan meter sus visiones políticas y sus visiones del mundo y no se dan cuenta que lo importante es que el juego esté diseñado para los jugadores, no para los desarrolladores. Y este fue un problema que Blizzard siempre tuvo desde sus inicios, cuando silenciaban, baneaban a los jugadores que mostraban bugs, mostraban cosas. Ese es un problema que tenía muy fuerte Blizzard y fue una de las diferencias que Riot siempre tuvo sobre Blizzard. Que Blizzard no tenía muy buena comunicación con los jugadores y Riot siempre tuvo un canal de comunicación abierta con los jugadores, ¿no? Y qué bueno que se den cuenta que al final del día los juegos son para los jugadores, no para ellos mismos.
That feeling that they had back in the day, even if the game might look a little different, sometimes you have to adjust things to recapture that feeling. You can't just keep having the same thing over and over again. Sometimes you have to have some modernization to it. So we've been really focused on that and trying to get it right. I think we've been doing that since the start as well. You look back at like Chrono Boon Displacer in classic vanilla. People were like, okay, you know what? People didn't play with world buffs back in the day. Now they do. Now we have to find something to do with that. Where world buffs are a little bit less, less hard to maintain in a world where players are, going after each other and really focusing on these things. And even in like TBC, Seal of Blood going to both sides so that now Ret Paladins on Alliance can actually feel like they're seal twisting. Yeah, we've been doing changes all throughout. They've been very subtle, but we've really gotten to the point in MIST of Pandaria where we're like, okay, we can talk to the players. We're focused on them. We really understand what they want. And if we don't understand it and we do something on the beta, they tell us that. And then we take...
Por eso, precisamente, les he dicho a todos que mínimo prueben Pandaria. A toda la gente que conozco les he dicho que mínimo lo prueben, porque realmente creo que los cambios que han hecho para MIST of Pandaria están muchísimo más acorde con la realidad ahorita de los jugadores de Classic y no nada más con lo que ellos pensaban que en algún momento fue MIST of Pandaria. Esa es una de las cosas para mí más importantes del por qué he promovido tanto este juego para mis amigos personales, de que literalmente mínimo le den la oportunidad de probarlo, de probar el juego, de verdad. Creo que está muy bien todos los cambios que han hecho.
That in and we listen.
Beautiful, because you mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Aiden really nailed it, particularly on the element of the alt unfriendliness and that perspective in the community of the original MIST of Pandaria Classic, or any sense that like, oh, I can't spin up an alt halfway through the expansion because I won't be able to get my legendary by the very end.
Esa fue la razón por la cual yo no tuve más alternos en ICC. Porque en ICC, literalmente, cuando tenía como 6 semanas, en ICC la única manera de obtener el tier era yendo a ICC. No podías obtenerlo de otra manera. Tenías que ir a ICC, tenías que capear, creo que eran los puntos de... No recuerdo cómo era exactamente, pero recuerdo que tenías que capear como algo que solamente te tiraba en ICC para poder obtenerlo y te tardabas como 3 semanas para poder alcanzar a cualquier otro, porque los tokens se iban mejorando. Primero tenías que comprar el normal, luego tenías que comprar el de 25, luego tenías que comprar el de heroico. Ese tipo de sistemas que te hacen timegate a los jugadores que quieren llegar después, siempre se me han hecho una tontería. Bien brutal. Creo que eran los emblemas de Skacha, Nostrat, como dices, efectivamente. Pero recuerdo que simplemente tenías que estar... no podías... o sea, si tú leveleabas un alterno, tenías que esperarte como 4 semanas para poder alcanzarlos, considerando que te fuera súper bien en el loot o una cosa así. Y era demasiado tiempo, pues. Y hubo un momento en el que dije, no voy a raidear por 4 semanas siendo... inferior a los demás, porque simplemente no podía tener un alterno más, que de todas maneras terminé con un montón de alternos, honestamente, pero ese tipo de sistemas a mí siempre me han parecido súper tontos. ICC es Ice Crown Citadel y es el último raid de LK.
Too far behind. You know, the team has taken a very holistic look at that original expansion and made, gosh, we could spend the entire discussion today talking about all the fantastic changes that are coming in this Pandaria Classic. But we're turning it into something that is very alt-friendly, be it with the Celestial Dungeons or the changes to reputations, the changes to how much players, let's say, might not have to grind as much as they would expect to, the reputation levels that they need to reach in order to unlock the different rewards that are associated with them. The tome of flying, allowing your alts to be able to fly straight away so long as your first gets all the way up to level 90. I mean, we're talking about substantial changes here, including some that were born out of Cataclysm, like the rolling valor and conquest cap.
Y no nada más de Cataclismo, también desde LK, pues. También desde LK hay cambios que están heredando de LK. Y un problema que yo tuve particularmente es que en Cataclismo creo que no nada más les hizo falta, sino que lo abandonaron mucho sabiendo que tenían problemas que ya habían solucionado en LK.
It really has been cool, and again, to see that feedback from the community, even beyond just the substantial class changes that Aiden and the team have made for these MIST of Pandaria Classic classes.
So yeah, I wanted to jump in, sorry, on the end of that.
Yeah, go on.
That's one of those examples where, like, we did the rolling valor cap and conquest cap, and then MIST of Pandaria came around, and it was like, well, should Elder Charms of Good Fortune have this too? And we got the feedback, like, that would probably feel really good as an alt to not feel like you're behind. So that's kind of the thing, is we don't like things that make you feel like you're permanently behind in Classic. We want players to be able to pick it up at any time and be able to enjoy it to its fullest and capture that nostalgia, even if they didn't jump on launch day.
So someone who admittedly hasn't jumped into Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King or the Cataclysm, I hear you throw around a lot of terms from
Es lo que les decía también. ¿Por qué Noble está haciendo la entrevista si él no ha jugado nada de Classic, pues?
And coins and all that. And I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I mentioned, like, hey, I'm interviewing, I'm asking about MIST of Pandaria Beta. They were unaware that there were coming changes to MIST of Pandaria Beta. They were like, oh, it's just going to be the same thing. So what I'm keen on is, you mentioned the reputation changes and you mentioned the dungeon changes, like...
No, y yo tengo un video literalmente muy largo explicando todas las mejoras que hicieron en MIST of Pandaria. O sea, si quieren saber exactamente una cosa por cosa, porque no creo que hablen de todo aquí en la entrevista, vayan a ver ese video. La verdad, hubo un montón de cosas, un montón de mejoras que realmente valen la pena.
Their valor in the dungeons, what exactly is that about? Let's throw it to Aiden.
Okay, yeah, I can touch on the... I first and foremost touch on the reputation changes. So the reputation changes, we're starting the game in 5.0, but we're going to bring some reputation changes from further on in the expansion. Like, once you hit revered on a character, you get a grand commendation that gives 100% increase to reputation for all characters on the same account. So the next time you roll an alt, you get reputation twice as fast, but it also helps you go from revered to exalted twice as fast as well.
There's also that came later in MIST of Pandaria, right? There was something that was added.
It is.
Right, okay.
So we're adding it at the start, right? We're adding it at the beginning so that players don't have to have that. Well, we're adding it a little bit later because obviously we're adding it when the raids come out, because there's some things that people do in the modern age where they're like, I want to min-max. So they're like, if you roll a human and you get to revered just barely, and then you roll a second human and you have the 100%, and you're like, I can hit exalted before the raid comes out. It's like, we kind of want to save players from themselves sometimes and be like, you know.
Ese argumento que acabo de usar es un argumento muy que a veces a los desarrolladores se les olvida. Y es algo que tenemos, es un problema muy grande que tiene la player base, que a veces la player base es tan min-maxer que tienes que diseñar los sistemas pensando siempre en que los tienes que salvar del peor enemigo de la player base, que siempre es ellos mismos. En Classic original hubo tanto degenere por los sistemas de PvP que no recibieron ningún cambio, que literalmente, o sea, al grado que la gente se estaba poniendo de acuerdo para en qué momento ibas a estar empujando como para estar en los títulos más altos, que son, creo que, Gran Mariscal de la Alianza y Alto Señor de la Guerra de la Horda. Y si no hacías caso a lo que hacía la comunidad, hicieron complots, literalmente, la comunidad de PvP de alto nivel, para quitarles el honor a la gente a través de kills deshonorables. Y eso les quitaba un montón de honor. O sea, hubo un complot tan largo de una persona que se convirtió en amigo de un güey que no quería respetar el cap artificial que había puesto la comunidad. Se tuvo que convertir en su amigo por más de 2-3 meses para convencerlo que era su amigo, hasta el punto que por fin lo invitó a hacer PvP. Le jaló un montón de ads para que tuviera kills deshonorables y lo retrasó tanto que la persona literalmente dejó de jugar. Y es porque esos sistemas existen, esos sistemas en los que literalmente los players se vuelven tan locos, se vuelven tan enfermos que pasan 40 horas, o sea, seguidas sin desconectarse porque quieren llegar arreverado en una reputación que les va a dar, no sé, 1% más de DPS, ese tipo de locuras. Sí tienen que de todas maneras los desarrolladores ponerte sistemas de frenos para decir, a ver, espera, tranquilo, disfrútalo, porque al final, porque luego lo que termina pasando es que la gente dice, no mames, ¿para qué me ponen esto? Si no lo hago, no soy eficaz. Pues no lo tienes que hacer, papá. Pero de todas maneras la gente se enoja, pues.
Just enjoy the game, like just enjoy the game. You don't need to do this to feel like you're competing with everybody else.
Claro.
Those kind of farms for us, they really do take a toll on players, and especially because now in this day and age, really information travels so fast that people feel like if they aren't doing something, they're missing out.
Claro.
So yeah, we've really been focused on making reputations as friendly as possible. We've taken some of the revered rewards requirements.
Digo también, no hicieron las reputaciones lo más amigable que se pudiera. Pudieron haber hecho a countdown para todas, pero bueno.
Down to honored, so you don't need to be revered to get them.
Están caídos,
We've made food recipes, craft twice as much food. So when you're doing the tillers or you're gathering, it's going to get you more bang for your buck there. And so we've really just tried to make it so. I guess the other big one is that the August Celestials and the Shadowpawn are not behind hitting revered with the Golden Lotus, so you can do those dailies right away. So you don't have to spend. I think it was something like 30 days of dailies, something along those lines, maybe 15 or 16, to actually.
Estás totalmente equivocado, mi hermano. Así, totalmente equivocado. La gente hardcore de cualquier juego es un porcentaje ínfimo de la player base. Ínfimo, pequeñito de la player base. Son los más vocales, son los más enfadosos, pero lo único que va a permitir que cualquier juego crezca son los casuales, no los hardcore. Los hardcore son nada de la player base. Y te lo digo como un jugador hardcore, por así decirlo. Pero literalmente tienen que ser los casuales siempre a los que tienes que apelar. Ese es uno de los problemas más grandes que tiene retail hasta el momento, que las raids las han hecho tan complicadas que han alienado a los jugadores casuales para que puedan seguir raideando y se están quejando y están enojados. Ese es el problema. Todo tiene que tener un balance. Si haces todo para los hardcore, nada más te vas a quedar con 1000 jugadores. Porque los hardcore son gente que tiene la capacidad, no nada más en el juego, de poder, no tryhards, hardcore, que son cosas diferentes. Alguien puede ser tryhard en sus 2 horas de juego que tiene. Pero una persona hardcore está jugando la mayor parte del día, está metiéndole como loco, tiene ese tipo de cosas, como por ejemplo, tiene que farmear todas las reputaciones antes de que O sea, son súper necesarios que tengas un buen balance entre los dos.
Unlock those. So now you can actually start getting that reputation right out the gate.
Yeah, that was one of the major critiques back in Pandaria, where like the rep grinds were burning people out, not to mention on alts and all that. So that's a great change. Super. And then the extra rewards, because I've done a little bit of Googling before the interview, obviously. No LFR and raid bosses in the dungeons. What is that all about?
Yeah, so we're calling it celestial dungeons, and if you look at it, you can think of it as really this evolution of this system that we brought to Wrath of the Lich King Classic in Titan Rune Dungeons. Titan Rune Dungeons had basically new difficulty options for the dungeons in the game that provided you with new rewards associated with them.
Que sería algo similar.
And they progressed through an alpha, beta.
Que sería algo similar como Míticas Plus. Muchísimo más simplificado, pero es algo similar a Míticas Plus.
Gamma, I want to say it was.
Era alfa, beta, gamma. Correct.
Increased. We've thought that was really successful. We found great response to it from our community, including some of the new mechanics that came in the particularly in the Gamma dungeons. That we then brought that system over to Cataclysm, our elemental rune dungeons.
Y tardaron,
and those progressed similarly as well. We think we really nailed it with the final iteration of those, the Twilight rune dungeons, or the Twilight difficulty option. That now we've brought that system over to MIST of Pandaria, and we've been able to look back at these past 2 classic expansions and basically say, okay, let's take all of our learnings from that. And let's also take what we're hearing from the community about some of the pain points that they experienced with the original. How can we combine all of that together to create something that's going to be friendly for brand new players that are just jumping in, friendly for alts, providing an alternate progression path so that I can continue my legendary outside of having to run the raids. And probably one of the best parts of this system that has now been proven ever since Wrath of the Lich King Classic is really it keeps the dungeons relevant throughout the entirety of the expansion. So there's always a good reason to run a dungeon. We also think that they do a really good job in filling in the gap and getting players into organized social gameplay. So, you know, ultimately, we really want players to join guilds and meet people in the game and run the raids. And these celestial dungeons kind of build a bridge to be able to do that and progress towards that goal. One of the wonderful things that our design team did was, as you mentioned, bring in raid boss encounters and mechanics in a surprising fashion into these celestial dungeons that also further give players an opportunity to experience some of those mechanics and kind of train themselves to then participate in the raids.
Claro.
So gotta imagine you're just running the same dungeons that you know, but then all of a sudden a raid boss in front of you, deal with the raid mechanics and overcome it. Is that how it works?
Para los que no sepan, los protocolos celestiales o las mazmorras celestiales, que ya no se llaman protocolo, no sé por qué, le rompieron la tradición, pero bueno, es irrelevante. O sea, las mazmorras celestiales lo que van a hacer es que van a tener una mecánica del tier en el que estés. Entonces, por ejemplo, los primeros protocolos celestiales van a tener mecánicas de corazón de miedo. Entonces vas a tener como, por ejemplo, el área que te jala hacia un solo lugar de... No recuerdo exactamente el boss, pero es de corazón de miedo. Vas a tener como que ese tipo de mecánicas. Y aparte, los jefes y tienen más vida. Todos los enemigos tienen más vida y hacen más daño. Entonces, así como dicen... Las personas que dicen es que en el FR me gustaba porque me enseñaba cómo era la raid. En mi experiencia, no estoy diciendo que sea la realidad, estoy diciendo que fue mi experiencia. Ustedes, cada quien tendrá su comentario. Pero en mi experiencia, el FR era un grupo de 40 personas o los que entraron al FR y la mayoría estaban en FK y no aprendían nada. Entonces, yo sí creo que realmente es un mucho mejor sistema los protocolos celestiales o los celestiales sobre el FR. No nada más para tener un mejor sistema de progresión, que mientras menos personas necesites es mejor, sino también por el hecho de que también te enseñan un poquito las mecánicas del juego y hace más interesantes mazmorras que de Pandaria para adelante. Todas las mazmorras heroicas eran muy muy fáciles porque quedaron traumados de lo de Cataclismo. Entonces para mí esto fue una de las mejores decisiones que pudieron haber tenido.
I believe it's when you're in an encounter with a boss, because we didn't want to have some random at that point, because we've done it before with the Twilight dungeons and things in Inferno Protocol and all that, where it's like if it's constant throughout the entire dungeon, sometimes when you're using some kind of like blanket affix, it might not sync up well with that part of the dungeon. If there's like an RP element to the dungeon or there's a part where you have to wait, sometimes that can be a bit of a problem. But the boss fights were a lot easier for us to look at and go, okay, if we throw in a Blade Lord here, like what's going to happen? Like a big tornado comes in. So you kind of throw that extra element in there during the boss encounters, and that's when you're going to feel it. So we're not stopping people from like pulling a bunch of trash and having that good feel in MIST of Pandaria where people like to group things up and AoE them down.
Sick. So in essence, a different difficulty. You can queue up for it for the group finder if you wanted to.
Correcto.
The rewards that you're going to get, are they LFR level gear? Because I was wondering, because you got all these elements, right? Like you got challenge mode, you got brawlers guild, you got raiding. Is this going to replace it, or is it more like a stepping stone into raiding?
It's definitely a stepping stone into raiding. It is LFR gear. All of the previous LFR gear from the tier is going to be on a vendor that you can buy with this currency that you'll get from doing the daily, from doing the once a day from it, which are two different things. There's a daily that'll have a targeted dungeon. And then killing the bosses inside of it and killing the last boss gives you extra ones to kind of incentivize people to stick around the entire time, even if they might not, enjoy the dungeon, or they might have, some would be like, oh, I gotta, I want to bounce and do something else. It's like, you get kind of some bonus ones at the end there, kind of enticing players. But yeah, the rewards are...
Eso de dar mayores recompensas para los jugadores es una de las cosas que no entiendo por qué no han implementado en las Míticas Plus en retail. Porque uno de los problemas más grandes que tienen las Míticas Plus, o mínimo lo que yo viví en la Season 2 de War Within, es que no hay tanques y no hay healers. Y no tiene razón del mundo, literalmente, de por qué no les dan una mayor cantidad de recompensas a los tanques y a los healers para que realmente hacer más atractivo esos roles. Si tienes una baja participación de ciertos roles, dales más recompensas. O sea, no batalles, ni siquiera tienes que meterte al tema del balance. sino a darles mejores recompensas hasta que eventualmente la recompensa sea lo suficiente para que la gente esté jugando más ese rol. Y eso es algo que me parece súper importante también. No, ¿cómo no? Bueno, no. Está bien, está bien.
All Celestial.
Vamos a decir que son distintas maneras de ver las cosas. Yo creo que van de la par las dos cosas.
They're all the Raid Finder level loot from like Mogashan Vaults. These will release 2 weeks after whatever tier or raid comes out. And we're kind of doing it similar to how LFR was, where it wasn't available right away, so people have to feel like they have to grind it to get into the raid. It's going to be, hey, the raid's been out for a little bit. This is now active, and you can get gear through that to help you with the raid. We also added some extra things there, like you can get some Valor points. We gave a way for you to transfer this currency when all of the raids of a tier are out to your alt. So you can gear up your alt through doing this and get your alt LFR gear or Celestial gear. And we have if you're somebody who just wants to hunt for mounts, we have a satchel that has lesser charms of good fortune in it, so you can grind those through this as well. And you get a chance at many different mounts. Some of them are unreleased from original MIST of Pandaria. Some of them are new, and some of them are like really hard to get, like the Heavenly Onyx Cloud Serpent.
Okay, and these rewards, they will remain in MIST of Pandaria Classic, I imagine. There's nothing that's going to cross over in retail, or because also the challenge mode gear that people have been asking about, that's all going to be in Classic?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, cool.
Eso también para mí que les hagan transfer a retail. Eso ayudaría muchísimo más a que la gente, en mi opinión, poder hacer el ecosistema que ellos están buscando. Que todo lo que ganen en Classic se vaya también en retail, estaría súper bien.
Sounds like a very much needed breath of fresh.
No tengo ninguna week ahora en lo particular, Josmel, pero dame un segundo, deja que terminemos el video y te ayudo con lo que necesitas.
Sure, it's in a game mode that's honestly a little bit available right now, but if you're going to add like all these new modes and these upgrades, do you already know when you're going to be releasing the raids? Because I googled and we had like 2 weeks between the first 3 and then 3 months and 6 months. Is there already a schedule available?
So we've announced when the first raid, Mogashan Vaults, is going to be releasing. And we announced also how the Celestial Dungeons are going to be available in relation to that. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, we haven't announced what the rest of the raid schedule is going to look like. I will note, though, on pacing, these classic expansions have given us a fantastic opportunity to kind of move a little bit quicker than the original iterations of them did. But for MIST of Pandaria specifically, especially in talking with that original team and looking back at the content cadence as it was when it originally released, that was...
Ese fue uno de los programas más grandes de Pandaria. Siege of Orgrimmar duró un montón de tiempo. Creo que duró más de un año. Es una locura lo que duró Siege of Orgrimmar.
Actually a very strong content cadence. I mean, that original team was cooking. They were, pumping out content, doing patches in between major raid patches as well. That I think there's not as much of an opportunity for us to move even faster than they did and still have it be a super satisfying experience. But that doesn't mean that it won't. I think that if you look back even at Cataclysm Classic, we released things like the Molten Front early and kind of provided a bridge to Firelands. There may be opportunities for that, but really it's going to be born out of an ongoing conversation with the community. And certainly, we do have access to the data. We can see how players are engaging. We can see how they're progressing. And if it makes sense for us to make a substantial timing change from the way that the original MIST of Pandaria rolled out its content, the option exists for us to be able to do that.
Con que no duren un año, con Siege of Orgrimmar ya todo bien.
It's actually going to be. With that in mind, though, like the massive bridge between Siege of Orgrimmar and Draenor, as well as the idea of are we going to be doing a Draenor Classic as well.
Claro.
You also spoke today about basically upgrading Classic and make it better. Are there already plans on doing a Draenor Classic, or are we still very much focused like we're doing Mob right now and Draenor to be discussed?
No van a decir esto, pues, ni de chiste le van a contestar eso.
I can confidently say that we are very focused on MIST of Pandaria Classic right now. we have a...
Eso también es algo que yo les he dicho desde hace un montón de tiempo. No tenemos por qué estar concentrados solamente en una expansión sin saber el futuro, porque esa es una de las cosas que más daña, en mi opinión, a Classic. Siempre tenemos que tener la seguridad del futuro, y creo que eso es algo que hemos fallado drásticamente, que ha fallado el equipo de Classic drásticamente, de que se esperan a que lleves, no sé, falten 3, 4 meses, 5 meses para que salga la siguiente expa para anunciarla. Eso no, en mi opinión no tiene sentido. Y va en contra de uno de los principios más grandes de los MMOs, que es la continuidad de tu personaje. En mi opinión, eso lo deberían de cambiar.
We have a long way to go, a lot of great content to progress through before we're going to be talking about the future. That doesn't mean that we're not working on other things on Classic, certainly, but at the moment we are very focused on making sure that we get MIST of Pandaria Classic just right and really deliver for our players.
I love the investment on updating it, though. That sounds so interesting. Because honestly, I was pondering, like, am I going to dive into it? It kind of feels like it. Are you bringing back the Realm First leveling achievement?
Yeah, I believe that's in there. And I think we've also taken some steps to be like, well, monks don't have their experience boost all the way up until 90, that type of thing. So yeah, I believe that is still in there.
Okay. Yeah, because it was one of my favorite achievements to get back in the day. And after that, it was completely taken off. So I was like, I'm kind of curious about this. So for those that are watching right now, and like my friend of mine yesterday was like, am I going to go into Classic or not? What would you tell to the player base watching right now? What would you tell them? Like, this is what is waiting for you. This is why you should dip your toes into this. Honestly, one of my favorite expansions.
Simplemente porque este es el ecosistema, pues. Es literalmente, ese es el ecosistema que ha creado WoW para ti. Es el ecosistema que Blizzard ha creado para los jugadores. Y no tienes por qué no sacarle provecho. Porque realmente hay momentos en retail en los que no tienen nada que hacer, pues. Y ahí cuando no tienen nada que hacer, vete a probar las otras versiones de WoW. A lo mejor te pueden gustar, a lo mejor te pueden llamar la atención. Eso creo que es lo más importante. Que realmente no entiendan que es un ecosistema único que ningún otro MMO ha podido hacer. No lo ha podido hacer Final Fantasy, no lo ha podido hacer absolutamente ningún otro MMO de este tamaño, porque WoW es de los pocos MMOs que lleva tanto tiempo en el mercado, con tantas versiones en el mercado, que literalmente pueden apelar a distintas demográficas. Entonces, para mí eso sería lo más importante.
Yeah, I think you kind of just answered that for us. This is so many players, favorite expansions or one of their favorite expansions. And we have the opportunity with this, again, to look back on it and really make the best version of one of our already greatest expansions. Claro. And particularly, and I don't want this to be lost on folks,
por eso también me emociona mucho
the opportunity to jump in right from the start and be part of the community as we all do this together. It's really one of those incredibly special points in any video game, but certainly in World of Warcraft, given the social elements of it and the community's focus on very specific pieces of content as we progress over the life of this expansion. I think that certainly through the communication that we put out in the lead up to this point, I hope that we've demonstrated a willingness to look back at some of the pain points and figure out really creative solutions to tackle them.
Definitivamente creo que sí lo demostraron. Definitivamente creo que estamos en una era diferente de Classic del que estuvimos originalmente. De lo que veníamos viviendo. Creo que se quedaron un poquito cortos. Creo que pudieron haber tenido todavía un mayor impacto. Pero en realidad yo estoy bastante satisfecho.
And I hope that the players recognize that is a promise for the future as well. That we expect to bring the same care and attention to the expansion as we move forward. So personally, as a player myself, outside of being able to roll a monk, a Pandaren monk, and experience that class, having not gotten to experience it previously myself, progress through all of this really strong creative content in the dungeons and the raids, and certainly with the new celestial dungeons that we've been bringing, and even start my own farm. I just think that there's so much to explore there, and the commitment from our team to deliver it to the highest quality possible for players is just going to result in an incredible expansion.
Yeah, the way that we see it is, this is your game. We just take care of it.
Aw, that is so sweet.
Honestly, we see ourselves almost as like...
Y es muy refrescante que desarrolladores tengan esa mentalidad. Y no la mentalidad de este es mi juego y lo vas a jugar como yo lo digo y porque yo digo, y es así como se tiene que jugar. Por eso también liberen a los GKPs de Era, por favor. liberen a los GDKPs del 20 aniversario, liberen, la gente los quiere, ya hubo post en Reddit, la gente quiere los GDKPs, luego vamos a hacer un video precisamente de ese tema, pero de verdad tienen que entender que los jugadores tienen que tener la decisión, no ellos meter reglas artificiales que no apoyan en nada.
Protectors of the classic experience and wanting to give players that nostalgia. So, yeah, very, very, very much so. It's the player's game.
And the response has been from the community as well. Like, I've quickly browsed today as well, not only on these releases from Classic, but also Season of Discovery and all that. Like, people are...
Tienen que entender que la player base tiene la edad suficiente para decidir qué es lo que quiere hacer. Si quieren jugar GDKPs, juegan GDKPs. Si no quieren jugar GDKPs, no jueguen GDKPs. O sea, nadie te está forzando a jugar de un tipo de juego, ¿o no? Simplemente deja que la comunidad se ponga de acuerdo siempre y cuando no estén rompiendo tus reglas y términos.
Eating it up, and the communication massively. Sometimes they don't agree with what's being communicated, but mainly how it is communicated and that they're in the loop. And like you said, there's a conversation to be had and like you look for feedback, and that is...
Sí, ahorita obviamente estamos viviendo ¿Querían la experiencia de Pandaria? Aquí está, que no haya servers.
Is very clear. Thank you very much for joining me today, honestly, and talking about this has been great. I'm actually going to jump in now. It's going to happen.
Love to hear it. That's great. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for asking such great questions.
Aiden, Clayton, thank you very much. Everybody at home, I'll do the wrap-off screen. Thank you very much. And there ended the interview. And after the fact, it left me with a feeling of talking to developers that really love the classic scene, that want to put out a fantastic experience for those involved, not just for those who remember the glory days of Pandaria and that want to bring it back, right? Like, as I mentioned, like I've seen the PvP feedback, I've seen people be excited for the classes, for reliving the days as old, but at the same time also make adjustments in order to make it a better experience. We've seen this with Classic, where they allow you to store your buffs and that you now have the world buffs on you.
Es que
and
eso,
just minor adjustments in...
Eso, el Chronoboom ha sido uno de los ejemplos más impactantes para mí de que a cierta parte de la población de Classic les gusta el masoquismo, literalmente. O sea, cualquier persona que se haya opuesto en algún momento al Chronoboom es que realmente les gusta el masoquismo.
In order to make Classic better, to even have a better MIST of Pandaria experience, which genuinely made me interested enough to be like, oh, okay, is this something I want to dip my toes in? Now, for me personally, the Classic experience has not been able to draw me in massively. I tried Classic for Roktelar questline, that was great. In this case, I might check it out just for the Rephion Legendary Cloak questline, which is no longer available in the game. I thought that storyline was fantastic. There's also the Darkspear Rebellion questline, which was honestly amazing as well. So I might be tempted to check that out, but it's going to be decided, and it's going to be checking out, like, do I have enough time for it? Because there's so much WoW to play through, not just in Classic, but also Retail and Season of Discovery and all these remixes and all the other stuff. But we'll see, you know, komt tijd, komt raad, and all the good stuff. Wrapping up this interview, though, I do want to let you know that Blizzard has given me 2 more SHA-infused epic keys to give away. This will...
Bueno, ahí les voy a dejar el link les voy a dejar el link del canal, del video de Nobel para que lo chequen si lo quieren checar directamente. Pero honestamente es un montón de las cosas que yo les he estado diciendo, pues. Es hacerlo suficientemente atractivo el juego para que la gente de retail lo pruebe. Eso es lo más importante. Que la gente de retail lo pruebe, la gente le dé la oportunidad a Classic, que realmente puede ser una muy muy buena experiencia si les dan la oportunidad. Me encantó el video, me encantó la entrevista y me gusta pensar en el futuro de esta versión de WoW. No sé hasta dónde vamos a llegar, no sé si vamos a llegar a Legión, yo creo que sí, honestamente, pero pues chéquenlo, la verdad. Está muy bien el video, muy buena la entrevista.